Welcome to Let's Get Creative with Sam, the podcast. I'm Sam Rawlings and I'm a children's creative counsellor. That means I help kids unlock their imaginations and explore the amazing world of creativity. But being creative can also be a great way to take care of our minds and feelings, which is super important. In this podcast, we'll be doing all sorts of fun things. We'll be sharing creative tips and tricks that can help us feel good, interviewing other awesome creative folks in the industry who use creativity for mental well-being, and maybe even doing some creative challenges together that can help us express ourselves. So buckle up, get ready to unleash your creativity and explore how it can help us feel our best, and let's have some fun. Good morning and welcome to another episode of Let's Get Creative with Sam. I'm Sam Rawlings and I'm a children's creative counsellor. I work with children 6 to 19 in person, online, and also Creative Trails, which is outside in nature. I'm tripping over my words. I also am part of a beautiful business called Power of Three Events, and we've just recently run our second event and it was incredible. Anyway, that is enough about me. I just want to introduce my wonderful guest today, Laura Bauer. Good morning, Laura.
Hello, how are you doing this morning, Sam?
I'm all right, apart from tripping over my words.
I know, do you know what I was just going to say? If that hadn't have been you, it would have definitely been me. So just watch this space now. No, I don't want to jinx myself, actually.
Laura, I just want to say thank you for joining me today. I know that you're feeling nervous and I know that this is quite new for you as well, but I'm so grateful that you've agreed and continued as well, because it's so easy to walk away from it, isn't it, if some things feel uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And I'm very grateful as well to be here. It's so nice that we've finally connected. And I know maybe I don't seem like maybe I do seem confident to your listeners, but I am nervous inside and I might stumble over my words, so please forgive me if I ramble or anything.
It's completely all right. I'm not here to make you feel that you're center of attention. I'm not here to create that like 20,000 questions that makes you feel. I'm here to make it really relaxed environment, and just like we're having a conversation with each other, and I know we've got a lot of things in common as well, and hopefully that'll help reassure you.
Absolutely. You've always made me feel comfortable, and just you'll probably notice I'm a right hair twiddler. So if I start twiddling, that's me way of calming.
I think that's so important as well. Firstly, that you notice when you feel nervous, but also that you've got your own ways of calming down. And when I'm working with my clients, we call it a toolbox. We create a toolbox together so that they have those ways to feel calmer, to reduce anxiety. And one of the things that I say to them is the counselling in the room, absolutely, yeah, that's what it's about. But also it's the rest of the time you're out of it. So the 23 hours and 23 hours, yeah, the 6 days and the 23 hours, that is when the counselling helps you, and it helps them realise that actually it's not just, you can go for counselling, you can have therapy, but it's about how you feel out of that space as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So would you like to introduce yourself to all my listeners today?
I would, thank you. Yeah, so as Sam said, my name is Laura, and I am an ex-primary teacher. So I don't like to use the word ex because it makes me think of ex-boyfriends and stuff and sounds negative, but basically I'm always a teacher and I always will be a teacher, but I left the teaching environment in mainstream schools 18 months ago, and that had been building up for a long time. And my story is I I went to university and did my psychology degree, and then I've been that person from I can remember being 4 years old, and absolutely I was like the Pied Piper then.
Mhm.
Kids just gravitated towards me. I always had a baby on my knee when I was really little, and obviously that continued on and on and on. And I knew that I would always work with children, and I am. I think my experience is sort of more than 25 years now of working with children and families. And so I did my degree, and then I wanted to be an educational psychologist. And I don't think I just had that drive that we might need sometimes to do those things. I was a different person then, which
Mhm.
is probably a conversation for another time. But I actually made it into teaching, and I was teaching for 15 years, and I was that teacher that got into school at 6 o'clock in the morning, stayed till 5:30 on a night, worked through all the holidays. And I used to look at other teachers and think, what are they moaning about? It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. And I do, and I did, and I still love it in many ways. But then I had my little girl, and um, I've had my own mental struggles throughout all this time, which I'll touch a little bit upon. But
Mhm.
when I had her, everybody said to me, "You won't feel the same about teaching," and I honestly, genuinely thought I wouldn't. And at the minute she was born, which happened in COVID, actually, it was 3 weeks after it all began. Um, I did. I changed completely, and when I went back, I just couldn't manage my emotions. I was feeling full of guilt all the time. I just didn't know how I was going to get through it, and I'd be crying in the car. And I think a lot of mums do that. Probably every single mum does. And this is not me
Yeah.
saying you're wrong if you want to be in a full-time job and have your child, but I just couldn't I just didn't feel right spending all that time with someone else's children. And my little girl was, going to nursery and going to other family members. It just didn't feel right. So from that minute on, I was on a mission to get out of teaching. And I tried everything from UW to being a life coach. I've actually started, of on many, many courses that I've started, that's one that I didn't finish. Being a kids life coach, which of course now in hindsight I would love to continue with that, but that
Yeah,
was one of
that's
my exits as well. And as it happens, I was doing parties for loads of kids at the time, just friends, and someone said you could do this as a job. So I just thought, I'm sorry, I'm just plugging my charger in. I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to give this a try. So I actually started doing parties for kids. Um, just like good old traditional parties. You might not be able to tell from this, but I am really out there, and I love to dance and I love to sing and I love to perform. So it was like the perfect thing for me. So that's how it started. I started Nelly B's Parties, it was called then. I think it's probably coming up to like 3 years now since I started that, and
amazing.
that's kind of grown and grown and grown, and that was kind of my way out, I suppose. And then in amongst that, I also took on board a franchise called Love Science and Mini Boffins, and all this time I was still teaching full time. So as you can
Mhm.
imagine, it got extremely challenging doing the job, and the job got extremely challenging. The behaviours, the type of children that we were seeing became sort of, it was just getting harder and harder, and my beliefs around education system started to change. And anyway, I decided that I want out. So I left 18 months ago, and I've built up my business. And in and amongst all that, I've had my own personal things going on. Like I got a diagnosis for ADHD, and a lot of the things that I was experiencing all started to fit together. Still on that path, but don't really want to. I won't venture into that too much today because it's kind of a conversation that could, well, being of my mind, could lead anywhere. So, my next venture, as I've discovered, I'm extremely entrepreneurial, and I've always kind of known that inside there was something more that I needed to give to families and to children, and I finally found that what that one thing is. And in the next couple of months, I'm hoping to launch that, and I think it's given me, being in education has given me this huge realization of what school is not providing for children, and it isn't the place for every single child, in my opinion. And it's very, very much still set in the Victorian times. And You know, my little girl actually still goes to school, to mainstream school, and I don't know where that's going to lead. I'd like to be able to home educate her or some alternative way of educating, at least anyway. And that's what my current path is telling me to do. You know, I really am so interested and so passionate about putting children at the forefront of everything and listening to what they want and listening to what they need and how they learn best. And for me, that's at the heart of everything that I'm doing. So I've probably talked way more than I meant to, because that was more than an introduction. But Sam, I hope I've not gone off too far off there.
Absolutely not. An introduction can be as how long, it can be as full or as rich or as short as you want it. It's kind of an opening for you to talk about yourself, really, and what your passion is. And I can just hear your passion.
Oh, thank you.
Obviously, we've had conversations before, and even this morning we had a short conversation before we started, just kind of where you are and our own kind of background. So my background started off in nurseries, and then I worked in schools, and then I worked in children's homes, while I was training to be a counsellor as well. And just having that background, that real richness and understanding and knowledge can take us a long way, can't it? But what I heard for you, Laura, was that you really enjoyed your teaching. You got a lot out of it. And as I say, it's created where you are now. But when you had your daughter, and it sounds a really difficult time for you then, because it was during COVID. It was the really new time, wasn't it? 3 weeks in. That must have been really difficult for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, I do actually, I try to be positive wherever possible. And I do look on that time as an actual blessing, because as it happened, Nellie was born on the 11th of March, and I remember leaving the hospital and I'm saying, oh, you need to be careful because there's somebody who might have COVID next door. And I was like thinking, what's this? I didn't pay attention. I don't really pay attention to much news, to be honest with you. But what happened, obviously, as a result of it, was that Chris was at home with us for the first 3 months. And I didn't get the baby censoring, I didn't get the baby massage, and I didn't get the meeting up with the mums as much as probably people do now or did before. But I had my husband at home, and that for me was like, when I look back on those times, we were literally like going on 6-hour walks every day in the buggy. And Chris and I actually spent so much time together. And Nellie, I know Nellie won't remember that, but that is the foundation of good parenting. That in an ideal world, wouldn't everybody want to do that? So yes, I'm sure there's a little bit of trauma for me around that time, but actually I'm really grateful for it as well.
That's so beautiful to hear, that you had that real opportunity as a family to bond. Obviously, like you said, when you first have a baby, your emotions, your hormones are everywhere, right? And you don't even know, you can't even plan how you're going to be. You can plan what you do, like the routine stuff, changing nappies, sleep, feed, those kind of things. But how you're actually going to be as a parent, as a mum, you've no idea. So having that support from your husband sounds so beautiful. And maybe that's why you're able to kind of just put COVID at the side, because for you, even though there will have been those difficult times, like you said, that trauma, overall, that's what you remember about it. And I just think that's so lovely to hear.
Absolutely. Because a lot of people's experiences are full of fear and anxiety, really, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely so. And I'm still seeing clients now, what is it, 4 years later, 5 years later, that are struggling because of what happened during COVID, whether it's been bereavement or trauma or that isolation. It doesn't end, does it? Just because like COVID is finished, there's still things about it that will impact people for a long time.
And you know what that actually brings me to as well? When I went back into teaching, I went back part-time initially, but then we just couldn't afford, so I ended up being full-time. But I remember that time for probably 2, 3 years, even maybe not today, for a very long time. as teachers, we were saying, oh, it's because of COVID, it's because of
Mhm.
COVID, you know, why have the children coming in and they're so different, and why they're so changed, and why have they got so many needs? And that was our answer a lot. But
Yeah.
obviously now I'm not saying some of it wasn't as a result of that, but it's not. It's not the reason why, and I think it's a multitude of things why we're seeing so many changes. And maybe those changes were always that, those things were always there, but people becoming more aware of that now, of the problems that children are having in school. And I think really that's, you know, that was a big thing at the time. I do remember that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I do believe, being spiritual, and obviously I know that you are as well, that we're put on this earth for a reason, you know, and also that things happen, you know, the universe or your God or whoever brings things to you at the right time. And even though I'm not going to say that COVID was easy, you know, I've spent a lot of time outside my daughter's window because they were ill or whatever, just so that I had some kind of connection. And it was hard, you know, and everybody's family, everybody's person of COVID is a different experience. And you know, and I totally understand that. But I also feel that like we walked more. I found spaces where I live that I'd never seen before, and I'd already been living there like 9 years. And I thought, oh, there's woods, and it was incredible. And do you know what? I walked around when I were outside with a big smile on my face, because
Oh yeah.
just start communicating with each other, and smiles, a morning or an afternoon or a smile can change somebody's day, can't
Oh
it?
yeah. I mean, the community spirit between everyone was phenomenal, wasn't it? And I think, you know, I wish that it was like that all the time. And I think for many
Yeah,
of us, we thought that that might continue because it opened our eyes a lot, didn't it? But
yeah.
actually, I think things have kind of just gone back to that a little bit now.
Yeah, I agree. It's not the
Not for all of us,
same.
obviously.
No, some people, yeah, absolutely. And I still walk around with a smile on my face, and you know, I just think that if you wake up in a bad mood, a grumpy mood, you're tired, you've got a lot on your mind, your thoughts are racing. The first thing that I would do is just, well, as well as dancing, I would smile, because it just
Oh, yeah.
changes. It brings them endorphins. And if I
Yeah.
can laugh as well, I will
Yeah.
laugh, because it changes how you feel. And I feel in some way, if we go back to like being in schools and how it changed so much, it's
Yeah.
almost like the children that came into school, the families, they were offloading, you know,
Yeah.
they were dropping all their pebbles, their stones, their rocks more, because
Yeah.
of like they wanted to stay at home, a lot of
Yeah.
them, because it was so much easier. But then, so coming into school, it was almost like, there you go, you deal with that now, because I can't cope with it anymore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that really does. There's a whole discussion around that, isn't there? You know,
Yeah,
the job of a teacher is social worker, counsellor, parent, you know, teacher, everything all rolled into one. And I think, you know, it, it puts me in a really amazing position, I think, and the experiences that I had being a teacher, I was very much, as much as I could do my own thing, I would try to, but I really believed in being a massive support for families. And a lot of teachers don't always take that approach. They kind of want to keep them at a distance. But for me, understanding a family and understanding the children, like you just said, you don't know what they've been from, and they don't, you know, they come into school and we might be their safe space for them. And
yeah,
you know what I mean. It
I
is.
do. Yeah, yeah, no. But I also feel that teachers get a bad reputation as well,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
because of how humans have changed. And I think there's always been this neurodiversity. I just
Oh
think
yeah.
that, you know, if you think about mental health, it was seen as a stigma, and it still is in some cultures,
Oh
and it,
yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
but it's more of an awareness now,
Hmm.
whereas
Yeah.
now it's about increasing the awareness of neurodivergence, isn't it? Particular
Mm-hmm.
ADHD, autism.
Yeah.
And I still feel that families really don't understand it, but they don't always know what it is, and they're like, "There's something not right with my
Yeah.
child," you know.
Yeah.
Um, and for you to have a diagnosis yourself. So, what made you go for a diagnosis, Laura?
Well, it's really funny because, as we all know, it's become sort of more apparent that people are struggling with certain things, and a lot of those are putting it down to that. And I've got to be honest, like when it was happening, when it like I kept hearing people saying, "Oh, I've had the diagnosis," and I was one of those people that was saying, "Oh, not another person," and I
Mm-hmm.
actually cringe at that now because it did. And there's still this little part of me inside that's like, I don't want it to be me. But I'm part of a 12-step program because I've had a history of eating disorders in the past. And it was actually one of my sponsors that said to me, have you ever thought that you might be neurodivergent? I hope that's the
Mm-hmm.
right word. I always get them mixed up. Or I have ADHD, basically. That's easy. I know I've got that right. Um, and I just thought I was offended. I was really offended. And then, for whatever reason, like social media does, it must have picked up on this conversation somehow. And I kept seeing these videos. I think he's called Kobe from America. This man that does little memes about people with ADHD, and
Yeah.
it was like the funny side of ADHD. And I'm not joking. I was literally rolling around howling because there was one of him like cleaning when it showed an image of him cleaning when you know that somebody important's coming round to your house. It
Mm-hmm.
was putting like a bed sheet over your head and pretending to be a ghost. And I just couldn't stop laughing because I just thought, oh my God, this is me. And don't get me wrong, that does not mean, just because you don't clean that you've got ADHD. That's not what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying. But there were so many things. I kept watching the videos and thinking, geez, this is me. And honestly, like leaving the teaching profession, it cracked me open because I was in this very, very strict routine. Like my boss at the time was very wanted everything to be a certain way, and obviously my ADHD wanted to be perfect. Because of who I am, I
Yeah.
wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to be the best teacher in the school. I wanted everything to be I never wanted to miss an email. I wanted everything to be in its place, a perfect tidy classroom, just be like this beacon of what the best teacher would be. And actually that really, I suppose, when I left, it was like all of that fell apart and I could actually be me. So that was like a front, like a mask, as they say, that I
Yeah.
was putting on. And I think that's why I have struggled a lot in this last 18 months because I haven't been able to manage my time. I've not been able to manage my life. And I don't say this in a negative way because it's been actually such a big thing. And obviously it took a long time. I think it was about a year that it took for me to get one. And they've obviously talked about medication, and now I'm on that path, and I'm still in two minds about that. But it has affected the way I see things, the way I see education, the way I see supporting children, the way I can support my own child, because, you know, she might be like me, which I think she does have. She does seem like she might be, and I'm the best advocate for that. And who
Yeah.
knows where that will lead? And she might not manage in a mainstream setting in the long term, but for now she is, and I'm truly grateful for that. But I think what I'm trying to say is, this diagnosis at the moment is still very much, it still feels quite early, but I am finding a way, and I just have to, I understand myself more, and it's everything, life makes sense, like why I had, I grew up believing that I was worthless. I can remember being 6 years old and thinking that I was ugly. And I don't know if people think that like that or not, but I know I did. And I know I always just felt like the ugly duckling, and that obviously led to eating disorders. And I've not ever been an alcoholic, but as a youngster, I was quite rebellious because I was always the rule follower at school. But then I hit my early 20s, and that was it now. And I used to bomb about the roads at 60 miles an hour and be like, "Who are you to tell me how to drive on the roads?" And this is ADHD side of me, you know, and honestly, I've had mental health problems and depression throughout all that time, and thankfully, you know, this has got me to this point now where I feel like I'm in the. I've always known like there was something, but now everything makes sense, and I'm going to use this to help other people. And I'm not saying I'm only going to help families with children that have got
No.
ADHD, but I know that I'm in a position to really help and support and understand children. And obviously, I've got so much experience with, you know, I've worked even as a teaching assistant, I've worked in children's homes. I don't think I told you that actually, Sam. I worked in a children's home once. And I've done so many different jobs, and what I love doing is supporting children and families, and that really is what I'm so passionate about. And yeah, so yeah.
Thank you for sharing, you know, that part of you, because even like touching on, you know, your eating disorders, and I know you said right at the beginning when you were doing your introduction that like part of your past is like that's a conversation for another day. So I
Yeah.
respect that, and I wouldn't like ask you questions, you know, because it'd feel like possibly that I'm digging, that I'm wanting to know more information, and that's not for me to do. Do you know what I mean? As I said right at
Yeah.
the beginning, I'm here to respect you, but you've obviously felt that you can share that. And I think sometimes we hold back because we there's the fear of judgment, the fear
Oh
we're going to
yeah.
be judged for what we say. However, sometimes when you say something like that, it can inspire others as well. You know, showing where you were from as young as 6 to how you were
Yeah.
feeling about yourself, to where you are now, Laura. You know, self-employed. You've got your business, but you've also got your business, a new one on the way. You've got a beautiful family. I can see that. I can sense it. Not see, I can
Yeah.
sense that energy in you. I mean, for a start off, let's just notice this, that we both wear yellow. Do you want to show that up again? I know you're wearing it, but it says you're, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
How beautiful is that? And that was one of the first things, wasn't it, when we first connected, and we were like, oh my gosh, we are both yellow.
Together, we're aligned.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think there's something so powerful, isn't there, about
Oh yeah.
realizing that we're, you know, that you're aligned with somebody. And now you're open because you've got your diagnosis, you know, and you're seeing yourself in as a different Laura, but not that you won't ever forget the Laura, because that's your inner child. That's
Mm,
all that you've experienced over time has brought you to where you are now.
that's it. And you know, you just as you were talking, I was just thinking, you know, like I've never really intended to work with sort of the teens and the older children, but more and more, I mean, who knows where this will lead, but more and more, like when I know I've not really explained my online learning portal that is upcoming, but it wasn't anything that I'd considered. But more and more so, I'm being pushed towards working with young adults, let's say teenagers, because I think having a daughter has been triggering in the sense that I'm really remembering what it was like to be a young person at high school, for
Yeah,
example, and I just feel like there's so much work to be done and so much confidence building and well-being work to be done with with older children to sort of help them realize the potential. And that's for me that comes as a result of the experiences that I had as a child and that being a mum
yeah,
now to a girl. Maybe it would have been different if I had a boy, but it actually I can feel the pain in my heart even saying it, like I can't bear the thought of her experiencing some of the things that I did at high school. And I didn't have a terrible time at high school, but it was more like the fitting in, the not feeling like I had a perfect body, not being fancied by boys. That's what we called it then. Fancied a boy, fancied you. Yeah. Not feeling likable, not feeling intelligent enough, not feeling as good as my peers at maths. You know, all these things that the factors that a lot of that to do with school and the way that it's constantly test, 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 and competition all the time, and I just didn't feel good enough, and I hate the idea of that happening to her. And I can't protect her from everything. I know that, but
Yeah.
my experiences have shaped, like everybody, who I am today, and what I want to do, and the support that I can give people and families, children.
I love that. Um, so tell me a little bit more about your online portal then.
Oh yeah, it's so, doors are opening to me all the time with this. I mean, I think it began as I get approached quite a bit to say, oh, are you going to start doing online teaching again? Because I used to do a lot of online tutoring and face
Okay.
to face tutoring, and the
Yeah.
truth is yes, I do. That's how it was born, because I knew that there's something more that I could be doing. But as I've explained, that my whole um, value system has shifted in terms of what I believe about learning and education. And maybe it was always been there, but I was trapped in the institution myself, being a teacher.
Hmm.
I couldn't see it, and I couldn't really understand. And I'm getting really clear on who I am and what I value, and I've never been comfortable with that. And so, you know, I think that children learn best when they're interested in what they're doing. So
Yeah.
that is kind of where this is born out of, and obviously a lot of children begin to doubt themselves and start to think that they're not ever going to be anything because
Hmm.
they're not good at English and they're not good at maths. And I know that that's how I felt, and a lot of children feel that way. But actually, if we can hone in on what they're passionate about and what they really love doing, then actually they can see a path for themselves in the future. And children are all born creative. We're all born curious. We all
Yeah.
want to learn from the minute that we're born. But school knocks that out of us in many ways. For it does for a lot
Yeah.
of children, and they turn off it. And so what I'm going to be doing in the future is creating a support network and a community of families, and what I'm going to provide is curriculums based on what children are really interested in and what they love. So let's say they really love animals, and I mean I can use my little girl as an example, because all she does is talk about when we're going to get a dog, when we're going to get a cat, and you know can she go horse riding? Can we go here to look at animals? All animals. We've all, as parents, we have those experiences, don't we, with
Yeah.
kids and animals mostly. So, I don't know that Nellie's going to want to be a zoologist or something when she gets older, but how amazing is it to actually learn more about animals, like in everything that she does, If she loves something, then why not find more about it? And that is what opens up anybody's mind to the love of learning again. And obviously when children leave school, that, for whatever reason, there's lots, isn't there, at the moment
Yeah.
about, this school avoidance, due to what's been going on at school and how anxious they feel about being at school. And
Yeah.
often families now are finding themselves with no option other than to bring the children out of school, and they're in that really difficult position where they're working full time and they don't, what are they going to do? And so I want to be the person that can help families to know that the children are not failing, and there is a way, there's an alternative way. And I think a lot of families are coming round to and really do agree with home education. And it's not to say that school doesn't work for everybody, because it does, but I think it's about knowing that there is another way. And I am what I'm really, really passionate about is putting children at the centre of their learning and having choices about what they learn, and understanding them and being able to support them. And, I'll hope that I'll be having a weekly meet up with them online to share what their achievements are, and also sharing mistakes as well, because I think that's really key. Like, children are scared of mistakes, aren't they? And that's
Yeah.
something that has to be, I'm sure you do a lot of work around that, Sam, as well. And,
Definitely.
for me, it's about celebrating all things, and it's not about, who's, schools do proud assemblies now, but I always feel guilty about proud assemblies, because I just think, what about the kids that are always doing the right thing? And every child deserves celebrating for me. It's so that's what that's going to be about. But then I think another side of it is that I want to create a space for parents as well to provide support for them. Because obviously, as parents, we know that when we're not there as parents and we're not in the right space, we can't provide the support that we need to for our kids as well. So I want to support them, and I'm going to be getting in professionals who will speak each month, and it might be somebody like yourself, Sam, who could come along and talk about the services that they offer and how they can support the children and so on. And it might be that there might be an dyslexia specialist who can talk about those things. It might just be somebody who wants to talk about home education or alternative provisions. But this is something that I'm really, really excited about. And obviously the doors that are opening all the time are just so huge. At the moment, someone said to me, "What is your dream?" And my head went crazy. I thought, no, I can't say that out loud. But I suppose my dream would be really to have like alternative an alternative school, where children are encouraged to be entrepreneurial and really, really work on what they are passionate about and what they want to do. And like my little girl does so many hobbies, and I just think, oh gosh, I wish she didn't do so much because it's too much time and it's too tiring. But actually, if we had a school where they could do those hobbies like play instruments, go rock climbing, do dance lessons, why can we not do that all the time? Like, that's what they love. They love. Which child wants to be sat around a desk for 6 hours? Because I know mine doesn't, and I know every single child in the schools that I worked in doesn't. And
Yeah,
this is about finding what works for your child, not what works for what we think. It's just too much of a blanket approach, isn't it? And it's just not working for
yeah,
everybody. So I don't know if I've been very coherent in explaining that, but I hope I have. And I
yeah.
think the honest truth is I'm trying to be open about what exactly it is I want to give everybody, because I know that this is just going to be so amazing.
Absolutely, and I'm so excited for you. And I think one of the things there is that actually you don't have to fully know how you want to run it at the moment, how
Yeah,
what you want it to include, who you want it to support, you know, and you know what your why is. So you've
yeah,
got that start, you're already putting things together, you're talking about it openly. By talking about it openly, you're feeling it. And that's what
yeah.
a lot of it is, isn't it? And when you said
Mm,
about like children's interests, I fully, fully agree. And that's one of the reasons that I work so creatively with my
yeah,
clients in my counselling. Um, and I know it's not for every child, and I have them options, but
yeah.
sometimes young people are the ones who want to explore like sand and kinetic
Oh,
sand
yeah.
because it helps them just tune back into their bodies and who they are. Whereas in
Mm,
school, they're not allowed fidgets.
yeah,
These are the kind of things that they say to
yeah.
me. And there's a couple of examples, obviously anonymously and okay to share. One of them is a year 10 really struggles in English, the side of it and everything. However, take them to the theatre. They can talk about it afterwards, after they've seen this really complex
Oh, that's amazing.
show, be able to talk about it,
Mm,
so that's their interest. And then another one, outside in nature, they want their school to be a tree house, a huge, massive tree house. That's what their school, how they see their school, and also who they want, who they'd
yeah.
have in that school is really important as well.
Mm,
And what you're saying and the way that I work as well, and we both work that way, it's actually safety. Feeling safe comes
mm,
first. And when you've got
absolutely.
feeling safe, you've got that trust, haven't you?
Yeah. Oh, my words. Yeah. Do you know what I wanted to say as well? Um, I think you touched on it before, but one thing that I always think of with young people today is that because obviously there's a lot going on with social media and phones and just the changing dynamics of the world. I think a lot of us have lost touch with that, with being a child, and
Yeah.
I think for me, and I try to model this to Nelly, like, this is about finding our child, you know, as in, if I'm not being silly, then I don't take myself too seriously. I am always doing silly things. And I think that children, even like up to 16, they're just sort of are almost too grown up. And I think I want this to be like, let's find an opportunity where we can laugh at and do silly things. And even as a teacher, that is always what I wanted to do, like make the children laugh, do silly things. And that really is like the heart of everything, isn't it? Just being accessing that.
And the parents as well. I mentioned earlier about like the Power of Three events. We run
Oh
our
yeah.
second event on Sunday, and the workshop that I did, the circle I did, was all about for women to connect to their inner child. Oh my gosh, their silliness, their fun. They were children again. They
Yeah.
were in that element. It was so beautiful to kind of start, you know, I engaged in times, but other times I just allowed them to do what they wanted. And if we can bring that back in, that actually it doesn't matter what age you are, play is so, so important.
Yeah.
It's almost like get to a teenager and you're not allowed to play because of the shame and the guilt and the
Yeah.
embarrassment and the judgments. Actually, like you said, very much similar, that silliness brings you back to be able to, you know, we talked about right at the beginning about smiling when we saw people.
Oh yeah.
That's what it's about, isn't it? It's about
Mm.
bringing joy to other people, because when you do that, you bring joy to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing that I'm really kind of sort of really, really want to people and children to really work develop is just that kindness. You know,
Yeah.
just the importance of that. Like, obviously, we know what the world would be like if every single person was kind. And I'm working with somebody else at the moment, and we're kind of on this bit of a kindness mission, and I hope in the future to open a kindness cafe.
Oh, I
And
love
and
that.
and I think for me, obviously, this works alongside so beautifully with what I want to offer, because I want children and young people to go on kindness missions, and you know, that be at the heart, a lot of that, but you know, the work that I do, I want it to be at the heart of that, you know, just the kindness mission. And that really, for me, it's about children being amazing human beings and knowing that their worth is not based on how well they do in a test or something, for example.
Yeah.
You know, they are amazing whether they've got a job at, I don't know, a shoe shop, or whether they've got a job as the best brain surgeon in the world. You know, it doesn't matter. Like, they're amazing
No.
people, and it's about being a good human, isn't it? And
Yeah.
that's something that really is the most important thing to teach.
I love that. And actually, as we finish this part of it, children are our future, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Laura, for sharing your
No, it's
passion
okay.
and where you are with everything. It sounds really exciting. So we've come to the part of the podcast episode where I ask you for 3 tips.
Hmm. So I did have 3 tips, and I hope that they're still really relevant, and you know, based on everything that I've talked about. But I think based on, you know, what the future of my business and what I want to achieve is, I think as a parent, if you're listening, I think the main thing is like watching your child and knowing that actually what you need to be looking for is what lights them up. You know, that's all you need to do. Like, the answers are actually with them. And
Yeah.
yes, they may not engage when they're at school and they're doing the maths, or they might feel like they're not good at maths, but inside them, they know they've got it inside them already. What is it that lights them up? What makes their world come alive? You know, that's where how we can get into them and get them excited about learning again. And that's particularly if you have a child who you just has disengaged from learning,
Mm.
you know, and it's happening all the time, isn't it? You know, and I think we've both said this. It's the biggest thing is the well-being. You know, it isn't two separate things from the learning. Well-being you know, if they haven't got good well-being, how can they learn? So I think, you know, for anybody, you know, that has got to come first. Good, positive mental health has got to come first. And that's really, really important to me so much. And I think, you know, everything that I've said, obviously, I've talked a lot about parenting and my experience as a parent. And I think if you're that parent out there right now who is feeling completely overwhelmed with the current situation they're in at school, you know, their child's in at school, really just, you know, perhaps, you know, they're trying to arrange meetings, maybe they're trying to get a diagnosis, nothing is working, and obviously we're always getting hit back with that. There's not enough money, we can't do this, and we haven't got enough time to do this. You know, that is your child, your one child out of probably 30 children, and it feels like heartbreaking. But, you know, it doesn't matter if you haven't got everything figured out today. You know, just know that you are the best advocate for your child and you know the best. So if someone's telling you that school is what they need and they need to get into school, just ask yourself, what is it that they actually need, and you will know the answer. And I think for me, that's the most important thing. Just follow your gut.
Absolutely, because if you feel that your child is more settled and more confident, then you'll feel it yourself as well.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it feels overwhelming. Like if anyone's thinking that they're not going to be able to ever get them back into school. Like there's other ways. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
have to be just going to school. There's definitely other things you can do, and know that, you know, they're just amazing people as they are at the end of the day.
absolutely. Thank you, Laura. So where can people find you?
So as I mentioned right at the beginning, I've got my other business, which is Nellie B's Parties, and I just call myself Nellie B's. So on Facebook and Instagram, but my new page, which has just gone live this week, is Nellie B's Learning Hive, and my little girl is called Nellie, by the way, so that's why everything's Nellie B's, and you know that's another thing, isn't it? Like she is gonna, what's the word when somebody follows a legacy? Yeah, so that I want to create a legacy. So I just thought, what better thing to do than call it Nellie B's, because then it'll still sound right. And when she becomes the CEO of it all, so that's my vision for her. Obviously she'll do what she wants to do, but yeah, hopefully I'm the legacy of that. And yeah, so find across in Instagram and Facebook, it's Nellie B's Learning Hive. But for all parties and other things, it's Nellie B's. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I got goosebumps when you talked about legacy, because they're then moments, aren't there, that you just can't take away. They're just there, aren't they? That it's just like
Yeah.
knowing that's what you want for
Yeah.
Nellie. And there you are. There she is. There it is. Printed on a t-shirt or sewn.
It's a print.
Print. It's beautiful anyway. So thank you, Laura, for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you and just find out your story, and you know, like we've said, about your real passion for supporting families, and that real kind of belief that actually that they are who they are, you know, and that with the right support and the right environments as well,
Yeah,
then they'll know exactly what they need. And then as you as a parent, just knowing that you've got everything that you need to be as a parent as well. It's all inside you. And when we believe in ourselves, it makes such a difference. Just look at Laura now. Now she's got her
thank you.
diagnosis and changed the way that she thinks and feels, full of confidence.
Oh,
To
thank you.
just before we started, where I'm calling you Nellie. Laura, Laura wasn't quite sure and nearly didn't come on today. So
Oh, I'm
if
so
there's
glad I
something
did.
you want
So
to
glad
do,
I did.
go for it. I'm so glad you did as well. It's just been a beautiful conversation today. So thank you everybody for listening. Today it has been such a wonderful chat. They always are. And I will be back soon with another podcast. Have a beautiful day. It is sun shining. We are bringing the sunshine.
We are the sunshine.
absolutely are. And also it's sun shining outside as well. So as we come up to the bank holiday. So thank you everyone, and I will see you all soon. Thank you, Laura. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.